Welcome to It's a Wonderful Weekend podcast party. I'm your host, Steve Searcy, here with G.L. Gooding, author of Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. And today we have a real treat. With us is Mary Owen, daughter of Donna Reed, Mary Bailey in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We're going to talk about the movie It's a Wonderful Life. We're going to talk about Donna Reed's incredible career and the Donna Reed Foundation in Denison, Iowa, honoring her legacy. So thank you both for joining us.
It's great to be here, and thank you, Mary.
Yeah,
it's
great to be here.
One of the ironies is that my mother, who just passed away at 102, was born and raised less than 75 miles from Denison, Iowa. So I've got a lot of Iowa history in my background as well. Some really wonderful people, especially wonderful mothers, came from Iowa.
Yep, that's true. I would agree with that. Yep.
Well, we're going to maybe spend a little time, since I think we're right at kind of like in the cusp of the holiday season and the tradition that is It's a Wonderful Life these days. You can't get through the holidays without watching this movie unless you're on some deserted island with no access to television or other medium. So, when did you first see this movie? Because you were born a decade after it was made, correct?
11 years after. Yeah, it's interesting because I came into the world, just before my mother's television show started. So essentially her film career was finished, and she didn't really, talk about it. And also It's a Wonderful Life, as many people may or may not know, didn't do well when it was released as a film at the box office. So it wasn't until I think the early 80s, when it was on TV all the time, that she felt so happy about that because, it didn't do well as a film. So I actually saw it when I was in college for the first time. I grew up in Los Angeles, and one of my best friends, it was playing at an art house theater, I think in the middle 70s. And he said, we've got to see this. Yeah. And so I saw it for the first time on the big screen, and I couldn't believe it, because I thought, well, Mom was like a TV actress, whatever. I didn't really, in those days, you didn't have access to the old movies like you do now. So it was a revelation to see how young and luminous she was in that film, and also just to get what an incredibly talented actress she was too. And then the movie was, blew me away as well.
Well, and for me, there are certain movies with characters in them where the person is so ideal to the role that you cannot imagine anybody else in it. And your mother is, for me, so perfect for that role, and the counterpoint to George and all the other stuff going on in there. It just blows me away that it didn't do well at the box office, because it's just has so many nuances in it. We could spend a couple hours just talking about all the subtleties in the movie.
That's true. Well, I think, speaking of Iowa, I think her background is, growing up on the farm and being from the Midwest really, those values really informed her role, as Mary Bailey. And also, she was the pretty rock solid person in the movie. I mean, a lot of times I get really tired when people describe the movie and they're like, George Bailey, and Donna Reed as his wife. She's actually a pretty important character in the film, and very strong. She never wavers. And I agree. There's a lot. Her acting holds up really well over time. There's a lot of subtlety and nuances. And in fact, my big thing is for people to see it in the movie theater, because I spend a lot of December introducing it on the big screen, and certain things that you can see on the big screen, including when she throws the rock to break the window at the Granville house, which she got on the first try, by the way, because she had a good softball. But you can see the trajectory of the ball on the big screen, which you can't really see on the small screen. But, that's just kind of a silly detail. But still, they had a stunt person ready to throw the rock, and she said, no, I think I can do this. And, she did.
So your mother had a good arm.
She did.
That's right. When from milking cows too, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, yeah, if I can digress a minute, your mother and my mother's character that I lived with for 72 years were so much of that strong, consistent, supportive, proactive kind of person that I saw. Always saw that in the movie because my mother was so much like that as I grew up. You could always rely on my mother to be there when I had a need. So I was really comfortable in writing my book. That character of Mary was the easiest character for me to deal with in my writing because I was so comfortable with who she was. Because she was my mom.
Wow, nice.
So when the movie finally became reborn, and you got to see it, did you and your mother have conversations about her memories of the movie and things that might be interesting for people to hear that she recalled from the set or interacting with the characters?
Well, I know that she said that Capra, she was under contract with MGM. And so in those days, they called it being loaned out. And I'm sure my father at the time, who was an agent, helped her figure all that out to go with Republic. And Frank Capra, who really was a visionary. I mean, he's really one of our earliest, independent filmmakers. As we know, It's a Wonderful Life. It's really an independent film. But so it had to have been a different experience than working on those MGM films, not to take anything away from them. But so she said he was very demanding, but kind, very kind and also open to, like, for example, that the telephone, that incredible telephone kissing scene.
Oh, yes.
Really one of the greatest scenes in film history. So Jimmy Stewart, actually, so I'm going to go back even further. I think World War II had a big influence on this film. I mean, everyone participated in the war effort, no matter who you were. My mother, answered soldiers' letters, and she did, she went to the Hollywood canteen and danced with the guys, stuff like that. But Capra and Jimmy Stewart, Jimmy Stewart came back a highly decorated bomber pilot, and Capra was making the Why We Fight series, the incredible 8-10-hour documentary. So he was privy to all kinds of atrocity footage and everything from the war, and pretty close to the front lines too. So they came back. They had both been away from Hollywood for 5 years, so they came back different people and away from the business. So there was a lot of insecurity on the set because of that. And I know my mother thought maybe it had to do with her because she was not very well known at the time. And certainly, Jimmy Stewart and Frank Capra had a whole success before the war together with the films that they did. So when it came time to do that scene, the telephone scene, Jimmy Stewart was like, no, I'm not ready. And so it was a few days before he said, okay, I'm ready to do the scene. So they all, got together and set it up. And he looked at my mom and he said, Jimmy Stewart, and he said, should we rehearse it? And Mom said, no. They got that scene on the first take, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
Oh my, that is so powerful.
Truly. So she said that he was demanding but very kind, and this kind of insecurity on the set as well that she wasn't quite sure what it had to do with. It didn't have to do with her. Yeah.
Your mother, she was cutting edge in the television industry, certainly.
Well,
I think, wasn't her show one of the longest running sitcoms? Not necessarily her primary forte in terms of comedy and so forth, but she sure pulled that off. At least my memories are of the show was really a continuation of that kind of values and positiveness with that touch of humor that really kept it going for 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years, 275 episodes. And in those days, each year there were like 30 some odd episodes they shot from September to May. So it's a long schedule.
Mary, didn't your
Yeah.
mother win an Academy Award?
In From Here to Eternity, yes,
Yes.
playing a prostitute. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That was against character, or kind of the roles that she'd been having before that. So did she have difficulty getting that role because of her kind of the perception of Hollywood of who she was as far as an actress?
Yeah, she did. Fred Zinnemann didn't want her or Frank Sinatra, but so Harry Cohn, who had an interest in the script, in the original story, took her audition, and I think they made her more than one audition, and Frank Sinatra's, and took them to my mother, this woman who was the drama coach at MGM, Lillian Burns Sidney, who's don't really know very much about her, but she was an incredible woman. And he took the auditions to her and said, "What do you think?" And Lillian said, "Well, it doesn't really get any better than this." So I think Harry Cohn had words with Zinnemann about who he should hire. But yeah, Fred Zinnemann did not want my mother playing that role, and of course she was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you spend much time on the sets during the television series? Were you pretty much had your own life away from that stuff?
I did spend some time on the set. I mean, what I think a lot of people don't know is that making television shows is incredibly boring. I mean, unless you're in them, take after take after take. But I remember the hairdresser, Trudy Wheeler, I think her name was, and the makeup man, Clay Campbell, who was also the makeup man on From Here to Eternity. They were so much fun, and they were so lovely to be around. So, yes, I was on the set from time to time. But like I said, it was not that exciting for a little kid.
In terms of watching your mother and being all around this, you personally had no desire to be to be an actress or to be in show business.
No, I think, yeah, I mean, it's just strange to have two parents in the business. We, as passionate as my mother was about her privacy, it still was not easy. Once she was famous on the small screen, that was it. Everywhere we went, whether it was to the grocery store, out to dinner, it was just hard not to sign autographs. And of course, she was always very gracious about that.
And once the It's a Wonderful Life became iconic, what was that like for her?
Well, I'm not sure, because she passed away in 1986, and it was kind of on the cusp of all of that. It was still really on TV a lot. And like I said, I know she felt, vindicated and so happy that the movie was popular again. But I mean, now it just continues to grow. It's incredible. I mean, I introduce it in theaters and it's sold out, and I've audiences now are in their 20s and 30s because they grew up watching it with their parents and they want to continue the tradition. It's real. There's no other movie that has this kind of trajectory. Seriously.
I would agree. I think the message in the movie, compared to the world we live in today, is really positive. Something magnetic to draw people to real values that really bring joy and pleasure to life, rather than some of the stuff we deal with day in and day out these days.
God, I know. It's really and it's interesting how it hits you differently, or at least me, every year. I always see something a little different or feel something differently depending on, what kind of year you've had, either politically. I mean, now there's no escaping politics. We're just, every day is a breaking news trauma.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Well, when you go out at Mary, and you get to meet these 20 and 30-year-old people that this movie has become so important to, what do they say? What is there a theme that runs through what they share with you about what the movie means to them?
Well, like I said, there's the history they have with their parents watching it every Christmas, and then it seems to mark time with them too. Like, they'll say, well, I came here with my boyfriend and now we're married, a couple of
Mm.
years later, or they just, it just hits people in a way that is hard to measure. It really is. And yeah, people have different stories. I mean, I talk to people from Ireland and England who are coming,
Oh,
and it's shown there as well. Because I never know in terms of, the rest of the world where the movie is popular. But yeah, I think, it's a profound experience for a lot of people.
I'll bet it is. Well, your mother was pretty incredible, and Gary mentioned how strong, but she had some strong views about war, and she acted on them, which I think is pretty incredible for the time period.
Right, I know. It's interesting because during World War II, she was part of the pinup culture. So she was, you know, to these men, she was kind of like almost a talisman. They would
Yeah.
pin up the, and, all these women represented the home front in a way that I think can't be underestimated. They really represented to the guys what they were fighting for. And then once the film career was over and she went into television, she kind of became the Uber mom to their kids.
Yeah.
So, and so then I think, and then the Vietnam War started, and I had two brothers who were of draft age. Luckily, their numbers were high, but she really felt strongly that we had no business in that war. So she, ended up working with another Mother for Peace to
Yeah.
end the war in Vietnam. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't think of the organization, but that was it. Yeah.
I don't want to have this end without you getting a chance to talk a bit about the Donna Reed Foundation in Denison and what that's all about, the role in it, and how people that are listening might be able to support that organization.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So when my mother passed away in 1986, she bequeathed her Oscar to her hometown in Denison, Iowa. And we all went there that summer to celebrate her and the Oscar. And one thing led to another. It's kind of a long story, but we established a foundation in her name. The archive is there. She saved everything from her film career and the television show. And our mission statement is really as an educational foundation. And we like to help kids locally and, all over the country who are interested in pursuing a career in the performing arts. Going from high school to college, we give scholarships away. We have a website, and it's donnareed.org. And yeah, it's an incredible foundation. I love going to her hometown. I don't know, there's something really special about Denison. And unfortunately, I don't have any family there anymore, but the farm is there, and we've marked it, and the foundation is incredible. Like I said, the archive is there, and we have a beautiful museum and a theater. It used to be an old German opera house, and we've kind of rehabbed it and turned it into the Donna Reed Theater, and we have events there. And yeah, we do a lot of good things.
Do you have an annual festival, or is there a period of time where most of the students are there in the educational programs?
Yes, we had a festival for many years, and we had to discontinue it, but we're in the process of bringing it back. So right now, the scholarship monies go to kids who, they submit information and a tape of their abilities. But we do want to bring the festival back. After 9/11, it just kind of things went downhill. I think a lot of families didn't want their kids traveling, blah, blah, blah. And so, but yes, we're in the process of building it back up.
And so that information about the evolution back to that, it would be on the website.
Yes, exactly. You can find everything there. Oh, and it's also the 60th anniversary of the TV show, and we're just about to come out with a fan book for the Donna Reed show. Yeah, that's going to come out probably in a week or so. Yep.
Excellent.
That'll be available through the foundation?
That will be available. I'm not sure. The publisher, the independent publisher we have, it'll be available through her website, and I'm not sure what that address is at the moment, but I can get back to you on that.
But it will be on the DonnaReed.org website at some point.
Yes, the link to that, absolutely, yes.
Well, super. Well, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. And
my
Gary, thank you also. And I wish you both the very best.
It's been a great experience, Mary, and it's a great way to kick off the holidays. And I'm going to pull out my copy of It's a Wonderful Life and watch it today.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. What a pleasure, and have a great holiday, and best to you in the new year.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to It's a Wonderful Weekend podcast party with me, Steve Searcy, and G.L. Gooding, author of Fresh Snow on Bedford Falls. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with special guest Mary Owen, the daughter of iconic actress Donna Reed, who starred in It's a Wonderful Life. Until next time, be safe and have fun.